Welcome back. This is Moving the Needle podcast, and I am so excited. If you're on YouTube, we're in a pretty pro setup. We're meant to start at 10 a.m. We're a little bit tardy. We've got none other than Greg Minnaar. I don't think I can do any intro justice for you. Your record speaks for itself. But I thought we'd start.
This is the first podcast that I've been to with a nice cold beer.
Well, only the best for you. So I thought I'd start. What was your favorite track of your whole career? No, don't answer that. Please don't answer that.
It's an interesting one because that's probably the question I get asked the most. I think you figured that out.
I did. And someone did not start there.
But, I think what's really cool is that whatever you get on a World Cup track is prepped and so nicely, most of the time, so nicely prepared for the World Cup, that any World Cup track is amazing to ride. Even the crap ones are really good. But then you go to like a really cool downhill track that's beat up and not really ready. It's not as fun. I don't know. So any World Cup ready track is a good track.
Well, that was a more interesting answer than I thought for a piss take of a question. But you are retired, Greg. Congratulations.
Is it?
We enjoyed a bit of an afternoon yesterday where normally you couldn't say yes to the invite that I gave you to go golfing, right? You were like, well, I've got to train. I've got to be back. I've got all these obligations. Has it sunk in? Like you are
definitely sunk in.
Retired from at least World Cup level competition.
Yeah. No, it's definitely sunk in. I've put in a lot of weight in the 2 months that I've had off. And I need to start losing weight again. And I had a great chat with your wife last night because she said you went through the same thing. And so on Tuesday, I went for a gravel ride. I just bought this new Norco gravel bike and it was so cool. I went out for a ride. I got a bit excited, which, to go back on another training route isn't ideal, but I felt like I needed to burn some calories. So I went out for 2.5 hours. And then my wife had booked paddle in the afternoon. So I played 2 hours of paddle. And then I took my niece and my wife to go for a trail run in the evening, a little 5K trail run, Tuesday trail run. So I'm definitely trying to exercise it all off. But then I come down to you and it's like this. I mean, who goes and plays a round of golf and at the halfway turnaround you have a Red Bull vodka? I mean, I've never heard of this.
Apparently it was a tradition, we were told.
A great tradition. So, I mean, it's definitely been a great off season so far, but I've enjoyed it. It's, a lot of people have asked, well, how does it feel? And it's, I've spent my whole life rushing and like looking so far down the line, like this would be my time to relax. So it's like, I've got to relax. Everything's got to do relax and like try and, I know I've got 2 months of it or whatever, 1 month. And I know I need to start training in December 1. And so I'm always on these timelines. And now I've got back and my whole body's just relaxed going, I don't have to train if I don't want to. I don't have to go and ride 2 hours of gravel if I don't want to. And it was a weird experience because it's, I got injured in the first race, separated my shoulder, and it hasn't really looked too bad, but literally like 10 days after Montanan, my shoulder dropped another centimeter. And it's just felt like my whole body is just relaxed, but everything's kind of relaxed. My whole stomach's just hanging out there. Like with this dad bod with, I'm not your dad. But it's been refreshing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've been at it since you were, mid-teens. Like you said, you switch off, but you're always chasing that training's coming up. Like, okay, I need to relax. I'm going to relax as good as I can. Like, and we know you're famous for that, right? And part of me thinks that is why you went so long, because you were good at relaxing. You were good at hanging out with your mates, riding motocross, surfing, and like not riding your downhill bike. Do you think that was a secret to some of your longevity, the way you were able to switch off?
I bumped into some riders and they were testing. So that was beginning of November. They were testing riding downhill. I wouldn't touch a downhill bike till at least January, February. And partly because, I'd go back to Pietermaritzburg. It's out, in the off season. And that's where I was born and raised. And it's too wet to ride downhill. It's like a clay. So you can't actually get to the top of the downhill. There's no way to get to the top. So you can't ride downhill. And, so I go ride motocross and, hang out, go surfing. And then once I started my training, it was all physical training. So December was like a lot of road riding, a lot of road miles, because, you know, again, you can't ride mountain bikes, it's too wet. And maybe that's just the season. So yeah, once it started to dry up, like towards the end of Jan, then I could get on the downhill bike and actually get to the top, do some shuttle runs. So it forced me to take a break. And I think you're right. I think that gave me this like really solid break. So once I got into the season, I was really fresh, you know.
Mentally.
And you know, we don't talk, where I'm from in South Africa, there is no real downhill scene. And all the media is all really based around marathon and cross country. There's nothing about downhill. So like you get away from everything. You know, people in Europe, they're still in the scene. They're still, you know, people talking about downhill and, you know, always a downhill. I've got no one, you know, and in Pietermaritzburg, like all my friends do not ride. I mean, these guys are smokers and drinkers and play the odd round at golf. I mean, they're not they're not athletes.
Well, if drinking was a sport, which they feel it is.
So to me, it was like a complete break. But in saying that, they all got e-bikes in lockdown, and that was a fun period because for probably the first time in my career, my like close friends were now part of my training regime. Instead of them corrupting me, they were kind of adding some value, which of course they had a lot of value, but like in terms of my training and everything else, they probably take away quite a bit of value. So that was cool. I had so much fun. I think I did I want to say I did close on like 800 kilometers on my e-bike in lockdown.
I came in visit. We did that project and the trails were really cool. And I could see you were really excited to ride the e-bike. And I noticed in the beginning of the season when you went to those preseason races, okay, one of the things is like how good you are under pressure. And like the smaller races, the older you got, I understood that you weren't going to perform. It's because it takes so much mental energy. You've got to be willing to crash. And you're smart enough, like, hey, if you get 15th of that, remember that Pro GRT, you got like 15th with a decent run, you thought. And everyone around you is worried. But I know, I'm like, what? Just watch him at Maribor, whatever the first World Cup is.
I remember that clearly. I'm going to just, sorry to interrupt.
Please.
Because Rob Roscott, I got back after that Pro GRT and it was up in, where was that area?
Portland.
Port Angeles, yeah. I got back from that and Rob Roscott was like, you need to go see a sports psychologist. So I was like, well, Rob, I mean, it's a preseason race. I don't even know this track. You can't even see, like that track. I remember the forest was so dense. I battled to learn it, but also I couldn't see further enough around the corner. So I couldn't see the exit and I struggled. And he's like, you should be see a sports psychologist. I was like, okay, Rob, let's just calm down a little bit. Why don't we, let's go past the first World Cup. And if I'm struggling there, and then I'll try and see some. But I really don't know what I do, but somehow I'm able to just, and I'm scared I would go to a sports psychologist. He might
break you.
He might just ruin something that, and I'm nervous with this. So he's like, okay, deal. And I think it might have been, I think I won or I did well in the first
You're easily on the podium or won Maribor.
Definitely not going to the sports psychologist. So he agreed. He's the funniest though. I mean, that guy is, anyway, sorry, carry on with
No, this is your podcast. I'm going to do my utmost best to not butt in too much because we want to hear like, what's it like to be Greg? So I've spoken ad nauseum about how good you are under pressure. And if you compare, some people say, what was it about Greg? Like, how did you not beat him? Like, it's like when I went to Maritzburg to perform at World Champs, like I shat myself. But this is where so I did okay, but I also crashed in the first turn because I wanted to do so well at home. And you were, say, in Maritzburg, like you're at home, you want to win, you're expected to win, it's your home course. Do you think you're born with that or you train that? Because you seem to lift your game the more pressure it is. And I think there's a chemical in your brain that you need a certain amount of pressure to perform optimally. And I get too much of that. And I freak out a bit. Yeah,
I don't know. I think like downhill's a scary, to me, a scary sport. And I always felt that I didn't have the skill of the other riders. Like I've always felt like, I just didn't think that I had the skill compared to the rest of the field. So I always felt like once I got through to that like final round, I'd really break the track up and understand where I could push it more than my like push myself into these areas where I felt like that way exceeded my abilities.
In your mind?
In my mind. And so I could but I could only do it once. And that I could only put it together in that final run. And so I'd like really plot out the track and put a lot of energy into like, I think I can ride this faster than the fastest I've done it. And I might not be able to touch a brakes, and I think I can do that. And then I'd do it in the final, but I wouldn't dare do it because it's too risky.
So you wouldn't practice at that speed?
Oh, no, not at all.
Where some riders, I think, have hit optimum speed in practice, so they know they can do it.
Sure.
I did hear that was some of your strategy. You're very methodical about certain sections of where you're going to go 100%, 105.
It's scary. Like downhill is really hard to. It's a really hard sport, and like when you do get it wrong, it's normally quite a big one. And sure, like you at the top of the downhill, you get like I get really scared, but then it pushes you into this zone of like of accuracy and like pushing the limits and some stuff like beyond my skill level. And then bring it back into some.
You feel you had less skill than other riders.
Yeah.
Like you've proven time and time again you had more skill. But you internally always felt insecure about some of your skill.
Yeah, I just didn't feel like I don't have the pace of most of the riders. So for me, like I could push myself to match or better their pace at times. But if we just went on, like if you look at the practice pace, I'm not on anyone's speed list. I'm normally quite a bit slower. But, that's because I was trying to be safe and secure. And I feel like it's a crazy sport. So,
and the sport back in the day, you could win with 95% in sections, 97. Like I feel like when I came onto the circuit, you were so consistent. You wouldn't crash in the finals. Literally, Greg Minnaar doesn't crash in the finals for a long time.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can go through the stats. Yes. And then later on, I think you can connect you crashing a bit more in the finals to the pace of what downhill became. And is that an accurate?
Yeah, but your downhill was really tricky in the 2000s. Like the tires were crap. The suspension was very average and the bikes didn't fit us. And so now you go into the like possibly just as technical track.
If not more.
If not more technical.
Right?
More rooty, more rocks, but those bikes just go straight over them. And so I remember Val de Sol, a section of Val de Sol, they were like, we were going around and the roots were pushing wide in this rut and it was really tricky. And I remember just seeing a rider cut straight over the roots of this tree on the inside, like I mean gaps this big and deep. And I was like, it's so impressive what these bikes can roll over.
Now.
Okay. You would never be able to do it in the early 2000s. Mid 2000s, you wouldn't be able to do it. But, and now it's like a different thing. These bikes are so good. The suspension's unreal. The tires are super good. The wheels, like you've gone through this whole like development of carbon fiber wheels, which used to break all the time. And now, we've gone through a season with not one broken wheel on our team. And that's impressive. That's like next level. And so, the bikes are more capable than ever before. So, if you come into the sport fresh and you're able to push this bike even harder, I mean, you're well ahead of the game. If you go back to, and you recall some sections of track, because we've been racing some of the tracks for a long time, you come into it like a bit cautious because you're like, oh yeah, I remember in 2005, the front end pushed on this.
Yeah, I got bucked and went over.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And you go through that same section now and it's just like a piece of cake. And off you go. It's super impressive where the sports come, and I feel it's unfair to say like, oh, the sport, the tracks are less technical. The riders are impressive. There's no shitty lines. You look at, I remember going to a race and you had to try and find a good line and make a good line because everyone was on kind of a crap line. Now they're like, the main line's really good and you might find one or two sections where there's slightly better line. But you could probably win a race on the main line because all the riders are good. The riders are good, bikes are good. It's just another level now.
So fascinating. You did 3 decades of downhill mountain biking.
Yeah, I know. Showed my age, yeah.
You can't avoid this question. When do you think was your peak? Like, when do you say that was Greg Minnaar at his best? Like, we just saw Mike Tyson fight at 58.
Yeah.
It's not his best. We know when it was.
Yeah.
You know, when he was like 25 or whatever the number is, when he was knocking people out. Like, when did you say, you know what, I'm the proudest of that era in my career? Like, that's when I was my best. And I know you had these like resurgence all the time.
Well, I had like a long stint and probably my prime where I was really badly injured.
Okay.
And so my shoulder was dislocating all the time. And, you know, this year's been a lot of year where I've reflected a lot and I thought, shit, this is something I really regret. And that was like a period where I was like, well, actually, I can't regret doing what I did and trying to ride through it because there actually wasn't a surgery to fix it.
Yeah,
there was no one who had like a shoulder that was dislocated in motocross or anything and that had it fixed and was like, oh, shoulder's back to normal. Until I bumped into Gareth Swanepoel, South African motocrosser who was really good racing in the US and he had a shoulder problem. He went to this doctor in Johannesburg and this doctor fixed his shoulder. And so it took me forever to get into this doctor to see him. And so in 2007, when my shoulder was completely destroyed, this guy fixed it up. And then, you know, I was 27, 28, and I came back in 2008 and probably had the most amazing season in my career. To me, that 2008 year was so good.
So that was probably your prime. And what I'm hearing is, if it wasn't for the shoulder, those years where you tried to battle through, do you think that was when like your 100% run could beat anyone's 100% run?
It was hard because, you know, there was a Sam Hill era and Sam could turn it up.
I was going to say,
you know,
was he the hardest to beat if he put his 100% run in 105 and you put in yours on a certain track? Like, you couldn't beat him, right?
Sam was like
fairly like he could do that on some tracks.
It was so interesting because he had such an amazing style and such a great rider, but he could just turn it up and you wouldn't know where it was. It might even be on like a track that typically you wouldn't think he'd be good on. He would just have this way exceed everything.
New Zealand Worlds,
yeah,
right,
and so yeah, it was really hard to go into track going, oh, this one suits me compared to him, because you just never knew.
That's interesting.
So yeah, so it was through that era and it was cool, but like that shoulder was just like, you know, I remember Montserrat like having a great run. I ended up second. I think I was second by like, I don't know, second or second and a half. But coming out of the section, my shoulder dislocates and I'm like, oh. So I'm just like swinging this thing and I can't get it back in. So I pull off the track. And as I pull off, I hit a bump and my shoulder goes back in. And I was like, oh, back on track and keep going. I mean, so through that period was terrible.
Bro, you dislocated your shoulder walking the Champri track.
Yeah.
I was with you. I've just remembered that.
Yeah.
We were walking down the track and you kind of jumped down a section, slipped, and you were like, it's out. I'm like, what do you mean it's out? You didn't fall.
Yeah. So
that's
a bit I regret. So there was like...
But you can't regret it because there was no op.
True. So from 2001 to 2007 was just, I think, a bit of racing where I wasn't able to be my best.
And was that, when did you first injure it? Was that Caprun?
At the end of 2001.
Yeah, Caprun.
No, so it was somewhere in France. End of season. I just beat Nico in the World Cup overall.
That's so ironic.
And I was like 19 years old and they put on this Nico invitation race in France somewhere. I can't remember where it was. No, it was some really gnarly place, like really gnarly track. And like, I think it was kind of a, you know, let's bring this young South African to France and let's see who really is the best rider. And I just remember the post that was like a picture of me, World Cup champion versus Nico, you know.
Oh, they bigged it up.
And it was, you know, and I was practicing with David Vasquez and I slipped on a root of a tree, took a crash, thought I broke my collarbone. So I was like, shit, David, I broke my collarbone. Just have a look. And I like put my shirt up and he looks at it, he goes, ooh. And then he just pedaled off down the hill and left me there. And I was like, wow. And so I looked down, my shoulder was on my chest. And so I sat there holding my arm until this marshal came and he was trying to put it back in. He was like, one guy was holding me around the waist, the other guy was pulling my arm forward. And eventually I pushed the guy away. I was like, I don't think you know what you're doing because it's not working yet. And I just sat there holding my arm. I mean, I could get comfortable with it. It wasn't crazy sore. And then the doctor came and he injected me with something and put my shoulder back. And so I recovered from that all right. But since then, my shoulder would dislocate posterior, right? Forward.
Anyway, not clued up on that.
We're going to Fort William, World Championships 2007. And I have a great top half. I go into the woods. And at that point, I was having this like exterior kind of support to try and keep my shoulder from dislocating. So it was like brace around my bicep, brace around my chest with this kind of like exterior taping to stop my shoulder being able to dislocate out. And I slipped in the woods. I didn't have the shoulder strength to push through off the bars. And so I ended up going over the bars. So I'd flip over and I knew I was good in Fort William. So I was like, World Champs, I have to get up and keep going. So I grab a bike and I like pedal off and I'm like, I'm not feeling too comfortable. But from the woods down, it's a fair way, but it's not crazy tech or anything. Back then it was kind of fast. And I got across the finish line, I was 4th place. And I was like, missed out on the podium. And I was pretty disappointed. A friend came and gave me a pat on the back and he's like, oh shit, dude, there's something wrong with your back. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, no, there's bone sticking out. So what? So I go to the medics and my shoulder's dislocated, but I've broken the scapula. So the scapula's like flaring. And I was like, oh shit. So I go to the hospital and they're like, you've dislocated your shoulder. We need to put it back in. But right then I knew it was like the end of Honda. I'd really known prior that this was our last race and I wanted to be at the team dinner and to thank everyone. And so I was like, well, we need to put this shoulder back in. I need to get to team dinner. So can you speed it up? And they're like, oh, we got this specialist coming in. You've dislocated posterior or whatever. And I'm like, it's definitely not, because if it is, I can put it back in. I'll swing it back in. And
I'm experienced in this.
Yeah. And it can't be. So it must be dislocated anterior.
Yeah.
And they go, no, it's definitely posterior. So these guys try. And they're like wrapping these towels and pulling and same thing, nothing happens. So they said, well, now we've called a specialist in from Inverness. It's going to take an hour and a half for her to come in. Anyway, she comes and she goes, yeah, it's definitely dislocated anterior, but we need to put it in. We're going to have to put you under. And I'm like, there's no ways I'm going under. I said, just give me that gas again. We need to flip and get this.
What's the pain like during having a dislocated shoulder?
I don't know. It's bearable.
Okay.
Like crazy, yeah. So anyway, we got it back in and managed to make the end of team dinner and a bit of the after party. It was, but yeah, that was my shoulder and it was completely ruined from there. So once I got it fixed, end of 2007, it was like a new lease of life.
I was going to say that might have been like big motivation and when you joined Syndicate, but we shouldn't gloss over Honda.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you've quoted to say that might be one of the most impressive bikes you've ridden. Was it the suspension and attention to detail that you were doing there? Because like it had less travel. You said it had the gearbox, but like, wasn't the gearbox kind of sluggish? Like to me,
the gearbox wasn't amazing.
Was it because the bike fitted you? Like why was it so?
Definitely didn't fit me.
Still too small.
Yeah, it was tiny. And that's my fault because every time I try to ride a bigger bike, I always felt sluggish and slow and wasn't going to work and got insecure about it. So I just stayed on what was traditional. The gearbox was great in a way that it worked. It worked really well. But the problem was it had drag. And so, we went through all electronic suspension to try and speed the bike up. And so it was a super impressive bike. Like you pull that bike off the wall and the suspension's incredible. The lines of the bike, it's still futuristic.
Looks so cool.
They did such a great job.
It only had 7 inches of travel, right?
Yeah.
On the front.
Yeah.
But it was so efficient. It felt 8. It was enough. Like what was the decision
felt really good. Well, I was on Horror in 2003 and had a great year. And I remember having a chat with Jim Ford, the CEO at the time. And, they wanted me to stay on. I was world champion on the bike. And I had this offer from Honda to join them. And, it was an incredible guy, Jim. He actually understood the position I was in. And, the reason why I wanted to go to Honda was to just understand what they're doing with bikes and to learn more about the product and get in with the engineers. And he said, Flip, that's an amazing opportunity. So go for it. And, and so I did. And it was the greatest education I've had. Understanding how these engineers work, what they're doing to manipulate the bike. And that was super cool.
Do you think that's where Greg the Puzzler started? Like getting into the weeds of testing and understanding, and you getting this knowledge, and then you took that into every team post that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think where we puzzle in the bike industry is we've got like, to manipulate a bike, you've got flip chips and all these things. So you're not really fixing the problem. You're just moving the problem to somewhere else in the bike. And so that was one of the most impressive things that I saw in the Norco, was that each part of the bike can be adjusted separately to anywhere else. So I'm not adjusting the bottom bracket hard to then get a different head angle.
Yeah.
I'm focusing solely on the bottom bracket hard to just the bottom bracket. So there's no puzzling, you know, and it's compromising, you know, like you move around the bike trying to fix the shock rate, but the head angle's now changed, and now you can't turn, and so you're moving around you're just pushing a problem around. You're not actually fixing the problem. Isolating the adjustment.
A lot of setup is a compromise. Even bike design, if you want to do it really good this way, it's going to then compromise something else.
But that's what I found so impressive on the Norco, is everything's isolated and it adjusted separately. So like I can adjust the shock rate, but solely the shock rate. I can adjust the chainstay and just the chainstay. I don't have to compromise anywhere. And so it makes setting up a bike pretty easy once you got your way around the bike. And so that was my struggle this year, was like, I hadn't gone through every single combination before the season started. So like when I got to Val di Sole, and that's why I felt like, you know, I went and rode Poland.
Oh, you were.
I was still injured, but I felt it necessary to keep developing the bike. And there's no better place to test the bike but a World Cup track. You go to any test track, it's not as fast. It's just not the same. So I found it really important to keep progressing on the bike. And then went to, like, you know, finally when I got to Italy, I was feeling a bit better on the bike. Shoulder was not too bad. And I made it through to the final. And then we decided to completely change the setup to get a different bike into the final. And I made a bit of a mistake on shock rate, because I changed the shock rate, but I didn't drop the spring rate. And I should have. And so I put a bit of weight on the front. I ended up like just not really feeling comfortable in practice. But then we put together a good final. And so we changed, we took that whole final day as like complete test day. But then it paid off going into like Leger, where I started to feel more comfortable on the bike. And then I knew like what to adjust going to different tracks. So it took a bit of time, but it's unbelievable. Like, I don't know why more bikes aren't isolated adjustments. We're in 2024 now. We've been changing stuff where you know, maybe it's just a consumer thing. Maybe it's hard to make a bike. I don't know. I've never made it, you know, worked on a bike for consumer. Maybe that's why we have these things that create puzzling rather than.
Yeah, I guess it's pros and cons. And if they do that, then the production line has to be a bit different. Sure. Yeah. So I guess there's always like a reason behind it. But you've mentioned Norco and this year. You've always had some pretty amazing fairy tale endings, like Maritzburg, like winning Val di Sole at the age you did, and, you know, beating Vouilloz. Like, you've had some really cool stories. Your story...
Chair going down. I think I've lost the shock, yeah. Sorry.
Is that because of your off-season weight or the chair? Like, what? Could you isolate? Could you puzzle the chair?
I'm definitely nearing triple digits here.
I have to tell you about AG1. You are probably not eating enough fruits and vegetables, and you know it. I've always taken my health seriously during my racing days and even now, but I often miss the mark on nutrition, especially when I'm traveling or busy. AG1 makes the best daily foundational nutrition supplement that I have ever found. One scoop of AG1 contains 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients, including multivitamins, prebiotics, probiotics, and more, all of which work together to fill the nutritional gaps in your diet and increase energy and focus. They also aid with digestion and support a healthy immune system, all without the need to take multiple products or pills. I seriously look forward to in the morning. It takes all of 60 seconds to mix and drink. Best of all, there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. So if you're skeptical or not sure, you can just buy it and try it for 3 full months If you don't like it for any reason, they will give your money back. So if you want to replace your multivitamin and more, start with AG1. Right now, try AG1 and get a free bottle of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/moving the needle. That's a $48 value for free if you go to drinkag1.com/moving the needle or by going to the link in the show notes below.
Do you think if Fort William went better, you would have retired then, right? Like that was
no, we were not the season.
No, but you wouldn't know
what in
20 end of 23.
Oh,
say you'd won Fort William or podium Fort William. You probably would have hung the boots up then, right?
I reckon, yeah.
Super interesting, like how life.
But we're so far, so far off the back going to Fort William. Like I said to guys, we had a discussion about it on the team, and I said, we're planning to finish in Fort William, but we've got so much development to do on this bike. We're not we're far off. Like we need to go. So let's put on the back burner for now, because we need to keep testing and focus on the bike. And so, therefore, that was just disappointing.
Have I brought up a woot?
It's just shit.
I don't mean to. Like I did see that it was shit.
I got my bike maybe 20 seconds before the start. I mean, we were really unprepared for that. And that's
so what happened there? Because I don't think that edit came together fairly for everyone involved. So what happened? So are you open to talking about that?
Yeah.
Because I was just it was kind of this and that in the edit, and I was like, it makes Greg look like he's shitting on someone, and they not accepting it. I'm like, what happened?
We normal warm up and starts pissing down, and so strategy for a wet race is put on a mud guard that covers more of the wheel so you don't get spray, extended visor, and then obviously there's goggles with roll-offs or whatever you choose. And so I was like, cool, let's put the mud guard on. It's like bucks down. Well, we don't have it. So then Petey came up with the mud guard. I don't know. Then the mud guard that was on the bike got stuck on. They're trying to break it off. And I was like, you can't break the Fox mud guard's amazing. Like it's super solid. You can't break it off. So I was like, you need to unscrew it. But then we didn't have tools.
So the Fox one, it's the socket out the back of the
socket out the back you can just break. You cut.
Oh, you can break the.
But it's the two little
bolts on the fork.
So we didn't have any tools. So then we were running around trying to borrow tools to swap this out. So eventually I was like, this is a bit of a dog show. Yeah, I'm gonna just go stand in the start hut.
Yeah,
this is all going.
Not the normal preparation.
I'm trying to focus down the track and just think shit. First keep going through stuff in my mind. And then I look back and I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to get a bike in time for the start. And so then I start to panic a bit. And eventually the bike gets wheeled to me literally 20 seconds to go. And so I jump on this bike trying to calm myself, and then off I go. And so I had a really crappy start to it. So then I try to get some rhythm and I'm going for it. And then the tire blew off the wheel. And
it's so
in that corner, I'd specifically braked up to make sure that I didn't shrop into it, because a lot of guys were. And don't know what happened. It just, and so to me that was I don't know. I think as a World Cup racer and as a World Cup team, you need to be prepared, and that we lack preparation.
I mean, I can understand hearing all that, the frustration and the emotion that came out in that video. And I referenced to Tyson earlier, but everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face, right?
Yeah.
And your plan was potentially to retire there, and just sometimes you don't get what you want, right?
I know.
And racing, you've got these crazy records, but you could probably rattle off a lot of frustration, a lot of races that didn't go your way, even though you've got this crazy record, right? So looking back, you mentioned a Sam Hill. You've also gone through the Gwin era, which he won 6 world titles. Yeah. Before that, people listening to this might not even know who Nicolas Vouilloz is. He is the GOAT before you were the GOAT. I mean, when I grew up, that guy, why was he so good?
Nico was amazing. He was just, I think he came from an era where it was like I don't know. I remember going to my first World Cup race, and it's like the guys were like made like a little forest track and were playing on like their hardtails and jumping and drinking beers and super social. But then Nico was on the trainer, doing intervals, and he was just a step ahead of everyone else. He took it really serious, and Flippy was impressive to watch. I just remember him in Shadow Day at the 97 World Champs, and he'd go into these switchbacks, which was so greasy and hard for me to ride. I really struggled, and he would like brake, fully clipped in, and like sit down midway through a corner and flick the spike around it. It was so cool. Yeah, he was. You
guys called him the alien, wasn't he? Like called the alien. He was called the alien, right?
Yeah.
And you've mentioned you don't often look at times because you think that could sort of handicap you.
Yeah, it like limits you.
Yeah. But like, I don't want to look at the time. It could be fast, it could be slow. Vouilloz is famous for saying, I'm going to do a 4:55.6.
Yeah.
And he goes and does it.
Well, I think it was it 2002 Caprun World Champs, and Petey had put in a storm overrun.
Yes.
And he hadn't beaten Nico. I don't think he never beat Nico.
Well, not at Worlds, obviously not.
And I think Petey's biggest mistake was trying to go off early because Nico was the last rider off.
Yeah.
And Nico had Stefan Gerard halfway down the track holding out a board to let him know if he was up or down because all the tech stuff was down the bottom. So he like rode the top as hard as he could, gave himself like whether he was up or down, and then controlled it to the line.
Gave himself a buffer.
And I think that he knew he was up at the halfway, and then he just cruised all rode pretty safe in the tech. And I remember him saying like, if he didn't know that P had done that time, he didn't think that was possible. So yeah, it's interesting. He was an impressive guy.
Yeah. And the reason I jumped back there is like, we mustn't forget to gloss over, like you mentioned at 19, you won a World Cup title, beating Nico Vouilloz. Like that's pretty unheard of. Like in your wildest dreams, did you have goals that big when you were a kid? Like out of Maritzburg, the small sleepy town at the time, you were this motocross phenom jumping 16 buses or whatever. Like it's been spoken about ad nauseum, but like, does Greg Minnaar set goals this lofty when he's a kid? Like I dreamt. How did you do all?
But I was motocross. I was full of motocross from 4.5 years old, and I used to like build all these like mini tracks in the back of our garden, and then I'd think that I was going to go race these supercrosses, and this was it. And I used to imagine myself, but cruising my BMX, and. Never did I think that I'd win a world mountain bike championship. It was like, I guess I've always imagined to think, I've always been able to think pretty big. Like I've never felt restricted in any kind of way in what's possible. But I didn't ever think that world championship, actually, possibly when I was trying to get there, I thought it was pretty impossible. Because we didn't have junior racing. We had no junior World Cups. We had elite men, elite women. And that was it. So, I remember trying to qualify. It was top 80 men, and I couldn't. It was hard. I couldn't ride the mud. And just to get into a final, it was impossible. And I thought, maybe I need to go back to school and finish up school and look at normal life rather than this World Cup racing, because it's really tough.
You thought about packing it in, hey? Those first few years, because you didn't.
Yeah, we didn't have internet back then. We didn't have it was hard to communicate. Like I remember phoning my family once every 2 weeks because it was expensive to phone. You didn't have the money to phone. There were no mobile phones. There was no WhatsApp. There was no ways to connect. And
you homesick?
Oh, for sure. Oh man, it was
so crazy that your career almost didn't happen.
Yeah,
it could have easily not happened.
1 year where you're in Europe, just puzzling,
So this is how old? You're 16-ish, right?
I must have been 16.
So when Whiteley
helped me out.
Helped you out. Yeah. Let's get you some experience. He saw something.
I mean, I remember going to France, and I was just like, this place is so foreign to me. Like, I don't belong here. and I raced, I used to go do the French Cups, and it was all Martin's plan to go race some French Cups. They got a strong series. Always best riders come from France. And you can race juniors. But what's impressive, and it's something that I think if you go to any French Cup, they don't care, the juniors and that, they don't really care about the category. It's about scratch. And scratch is the overall position.
Okay.
So if you're a junior and you end up on the scratch podium, like everyone knows that,
Oh, cool. You won juniors. What did you get in scratch?
What do you get in scratch? And I remember some guy coming to me and going, "Oh, where'd you end up scratch?" And I'm like, "Scratch? What's that?" And he's like, "Oh, that's the overall."
Well, that's your new golf goal, by the way.
Yeah. And maybe that's what makes the French so strong. Is because when they juniors, they're not looking at being the fastest junior. They look at the scratch. Like, where do they come overall?
Well, I mean, because you went before me, I would go, well, Greg could beat the elites in South Africa, so I could better start beating the elites if I think I'm going to go overseas. Like on a smaller version, so that is healthy.
I guess I did the same thing growing up. We had one rider, Robin Rumbelow.
Yes.
Went to the UK, raced on the dirt team.
He did World Cups as well, yeah.
Yeah. And maybe he gave us like a bit of a goal to try and
remember Greg Minnaar as well. He's from Cape Town, yeah.
Yeah. But Robin came back to South Africa to race a few of the national series, and I remember being a junior and going, well, he's kind of made it. He's on a pro team, so if we want to, now's the time to shine,
Yeah.
And I remember trying to race him, and so maybe that's how, maybe that gave us a bit of a footing up.
Yeah, I mean, you have to see someone before you, like, okay, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Like you did that for John T and I.
Sure.
Rumbelow, did that for us. Like, it's so fascinating, and I'll never forget going to my first World Champs, which was Sierra Nevada. So you were on animal.
I know where you're going with this.
Well, we can't gloss over some of these stories, but apparently let's call it initiation, because apparently at your first Junior Worlds, you were corrupted a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Shadow Day, and I remember 1664 beer. They're buying these long toms. These guys were wild. They'd shake these cans up, make you bite it, and then this beer was spraying. You had to shake it until you drank this whole thing. Now, I mean, at 16, pre-World Championships, this is going on. It's not really the best preparation for a World Championship. So yeah, I'll never forget that.
Yeah, so we fly into Sierra Nevada, Spain.
But this is a bit different.
It's a bit different.
I was so homesick. I was so excited to see you guys.
Yes, it was so amazing. So we're flying in about June. I think it was a mid-year because of the Olympics.
It was, yeah.
Now, you're on Animal Orange, so we're seeing you like you mates with PD now, like we're seeing in the magazines. For me, I wake up and my dad would print the World Cup results and look where Greg is. And, like, to be honest, like you were the guy here, like you were like our idol. We're like, Greg Minnaar has made it in downhill. This is insane, right? So we fly in, and to our like shock, surprise, and belief, like you're almost waiting for us at the South African team hotel because you're so homesick, which I can understand. Like I'm the same. And all I remember is in Sierra Nevada, very steep. It's above tree line, and we had dinner. And I'm 15. I think I'm 15 at the time because my birthday's only in August. And this is like
2000.
Yeah, 2000. And whose idea was it? I don't know. But after dinner, we didn't go to bed.
No.
We went for a walk in town. And we walked up, and I think you guys found a bar.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I knew what a beer was back then. I think I'd stolen a cider from my dad on holiday when I was 13. But you did not stay in your hotel room that night.
Yes, I remember.
Apparently, those streets are a little bit confusing.
So I remember clearly it was Sierra Nevada, and I bumped into you guys in the village there, and I'm like, oh my goodness, let's have a beer. So we have a few beers, then we go to opening ceremony, and then I was just so excited to see South Africans again, and it's like I just missed everything about it. And end up walking up, and we found this bar, and we got a bit excited. And so I'm trying to walk back to the hotel, and from Sierra Nevada up to where this bar was like this road that just zigzags up. And so I remember I had some stray dog walking with me, and I'm chatting to the dog and walking down, but I end up in the pits. I'm like, well, that's weird. Like I didn't see the. I remember our hotel was on this, like, going up on a left bend on the outside. So I walked back up, And then I've passed now this bar that we had. I'm like, now I'm out of town. I was like, that's weird. Like, this dog's still walking with me. I'm like, I don't know where I am. But I look down and I just see like the pit area was tiny. And I'm like, whoa, I'm like really high up this hill again. So let me try it one more time. So I start walking down and I end up back in the pits. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's getting late. I'm tired. And so I go and like, we had this like camper van truck thing on animal rights. So I'm like, I'm just going to sleep in the truck. So I like dash on the door and one of the mechanics wakes up and opens up for me. I'll like go to bed and then I wake up like not feeling great. But the team's come into practice and I'm still in my opening ceremony outfit. And I'm like, oh shit. So then I had to run up to the hotel, grab all my gear, and I was late for practice. But you know, it was.
But I mean, you only what? Are you 19 at the time? What, like, it's you're young,
so, right? Yeah, 19, 20.
It's so funny. You still got top 10 or something.
Might have been younger, actually. I was 18.
Was your first year elite? No.
Yes. Yeah.
First year elite was Animal Orange.
Yeah.
And second year elite was the Global.
Yeah.
And then you won the title. Is one of your biggest regrets, speaking of funny stories, which might not have made it out there, rolling your ankle on a trampoline in Andorra before Val di Sole, which is one of your better tracks?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I kind of blame the rat boy for that, but I'm trying to think what happened there. It was a Sunday. We watched cross country.
We were being very supportive of the cross country riders. And I think in the VIP.
And Andorra put on the best VIP. I mean, that organization is incredible. And someone dropped off a few bottles of champagne, and it was just an amazing day with BD, yourself, and a few others, Rat. And I don't know why, but there was this like kids park, and Rat ended up on this kids train driving it around, and they had these trampolines and stuff, and I think I tried to jump from one trampoline to another, and as I did, my ankle rolled. And I just like instantly got this like flush in my body, and I was like sweating and like, you know, I knew I was injured. And my whole foot goes black. And I don't bruise. Like I can take some big knocks and not get any bruise. So when I see bruising, it's normally pretty bad. But like underneath of my toes and underneath of my foot's black.
And it went so swollen, so quick.
It's still pretty fat now. And Lawrence van Lingen's the most incredible body doctor. And I remember he was like getting this hose pipe and just spraying my foot, trying to push out all the swelling. Because you go from, you know, now you've got this rolled ankle, this fat thing, foot swollen, it's black, and you had Val di Sole.
It was World as well, hey.
Was it World? Yeah, it could have been.
I think that's the year I was left off the South African team. So I was having fun in the VIP because I didn't have another race, but you were having more fun. And Worlds, what do you think it is? Like, do you think it's all the pressure? And as you said, like you just told me, when people say, oh, you do downhill, that's crazy. I'm like, not really. It's preparation. We walk the course. We know exactly how fast we want to go. But I think I'm deluding myself. It is a pretty silly sport that we did. Do you think that's your way of like releasing the pressure and like the craziness, you know, like a rock star after a big concert? It's like everyone has different ways of letting off steam and like switching the brain off almost. Like just like, because it's so, like you said, all you've thought about is training and performing and goals and setting up a bike for all this time. Like sometimes you just want it to stop.
I mean, downhill is like a pressure cooker. It's like you walk the track, you're trying to figure out the fastest line. You start practicing and you're trying to be the fastest down this track, but you can't see where your competitor is. You have no gauge, no understanding. So you're trying to not only practice the track, you're also trying to see if someone's going elsewhere or what they're doing, and you're trying to always be better. So you got like 2 days or 3 days of just in this immense pressure cooker, trying to be better than something that you trying to be better than the unknown.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah. And then you get to this race, and it doesn't matter what you know to that race, it's how you execute it. And so it's really weird. It's
you got one chance.
Yeah, you got one job and one chance. And then so afterwards, yeah, it's like, it is. You've made it down most of the time. You didn't get hurt. You survived all these risky moves you're trying to pull down the track to be better than everyone else. But you're right. I think it's a It's a way to switch off and just kind of like down.
Yeah, it's you're making me relive some of those moments, like the relief of getting down on a good run. Like, okay, sometimes it sucks you didn't do as good as you want, but especially when you get that result, like all that work, all the pressure, trying to beat the unknown. You should patent that quote. That's actually Red downhill. Trying to beat the unknown. You don't know how fast Sam Hill's going to go. You don't know how fast Aaron Gwin's going to go.
That doesn't really matter too.
You barely know.
Yeah. But it's hard to say that. And I mean, I've seen it from like the outside. Like I broke my arm in 2018. And so I missed a few races. I went to watch and it's like, I'm watching this section of track and I remember it clearly. It's Leogang motorway, bit of like stump section before. And I'm watching, so I had Luke and Loris on the team. And Loris is like jumping wide, setting up and carrying so much speed onto the motorway. It was like hitting it so good. And Luca was kind of on this inside line, which I didn't think was really good. But he stuck to it like the whole way through practice. And I'm looking at this going like, you know, eventually like Luca ends up being fastest in this section, which I thought off a bad line was still the quickest, but you know, he was just running it so good. And I'm not going, well, you know, we spend so much time as a racer worrying about all these different lines. Here's a great example of a guy just executing, possibly in my eyes, maybe not the greatest line, but executing well and being the fastest in that section off that line. So it wasn't really about what line he was on, it's how you executed. And so I'm going, like, to me, it like adjusted the whole way I was thinking about that. I'm like, it doesn't matter what line you are, just do it properly and do it hard.
100%.
Solely between the tape. And then you go like, which line I need to be on.
Puzzling, I got to be on this line. I can't.
It's so weird. It's so easy to see from the outside, but so hard to see when you're between the tape.
So that is my biggest thing I realize when I'm doing the downhill coaching on the side of the track. And riders are asking me, and it's like, I can understand if they ask me from doubt that they're not feeling confident. And then I have to say, like, what line do you feel like you can attack? Doesn't matter if it's 0.5 slower. It actually doesn't matter because I put you on the fast line and you hesitate. You're either going to crash or you're going to ride it slow anyway. But you ride like you're just so unemotionally attached that I can see that night and day. There were lines, Sam Hill was on a slower line, but because his skill set could ride it so well, it was as fast or faster. But with Sam Hill, it wasn't the line. Like some of those inside stuff, I'm like, they're horse shit.
Yeah.
They are. But he's so good on an inside that he makes it as fast as what he would have railed the outside. It's so funny that. So did you force yourself to work better after realizing that?
Well, I thought
this was only in 2018.
I was like, well, I'm going to adjust the way I do things. And as soon as you're between the tape, you're back to the like, which side I need to be on, you like nervous to not be on the right line. And it creates a lot of fuzz, but you know, it's interesting. It's hard. It's a tough sport. It's hard to.
I see it from the outside when you guys go walk the course. Sometimes I'm like, what are you getting out of the walk? But sometimes it's just calming the mind down. Okay, you know what? There is another line.
But like
I'll
to walk the track, and then you can like really zone in on understanding like where you don't have to brake, and like you can figure out like a line this much to the left misses all these bumps. And to me, that's like that last track walk is so key. But then you've got a guy who's like, he wins qualifying or whatever you want to call it, going to the final. And he doesn't even walk the track because he's like, I've got it down. I'm dialed. And he's confident and then goes into the next day and wins the game. But to me, it was like, if I'd won it, I'd need to walk it again to find even more time on track. I don't know. It's just it's a.
Where do you think confidence comes from?
Where do I think it comes from?
Yeah.
In myself.
Yeah.
I need to be comfortable on the bike. Fitting on the bike was really tough being tall because you're either too far forward, too far back, too far to the left, too far to it's easy to be off balance. So to me, I needed to be comfortable in the setup, and that gave me a lot of confidence. And there was confidence in where I needed to be on track. Those two things were the most important.
So that's why you always need to do that course walk. Because I'm like, some athletes, I'm like, don't go up. You're just going to ruin your legs. Like, you're always very fit. So I don't think the course walk, it did you more justice to go and get that confidence.
Yeah.
I always could see it with you. I'm like, yep, Even like you said, even if I won qualifying, you're still going to make coursework.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, God damn it, Greg's courseworking. Now, speaking of doubt, does that mean I need a coursework? If I just qualified as good as I've ever qualified, why do I need a coursework?
It's
a Greg Minnaar's courseworking. God damn it, I'm going to go coursework.
That's what makes the sport so cool, is it's so flipping hard.
And like back in the day, you guys had some like decent rivalries. Like you and Sam didn't talk much when you were like racing each other. And like maybe you and Burrell, like there was some rivalries. Nowadays, it's super interesting. Like you got Loic and Loris.
Yeah.
Like, and they seem friendly with Umri as well, right? And like they're friendliest with
Cup
you.
Is pretty
like,
friendly, like
it is.
Generally. The Sam Hill thing, I don't know if there was a team or what that was, but it was a bit odd. Like I remember walking past the team in Villigan and going, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And then when you reply, I was like, and then Sabrina, Sam's girlfriend, up to me, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And I was like, that's a bit odd. I mean, but anyway, I don't know if it was a team or what was going on there. But generally it's like everyone gets on and, you know, I don't really know of any, like, I think people, you know, they're sure there's rivalries.
Like the media also makes rivalries.
For sure. But there's rivalries out there. Like some guys don't want to lose to other guys. It happens.
Good question. You want to answer that one?
But everyone's very, very friendly around it. It's just that, you know, they don't want to lose.
So who pissed you off the most when they were ahead of you?
You.
But we tied.
Yeah, we did tie. And they put you ahead of me on the score.
Yeah, if we could just produce, if you could just, I'll screenshot. Greg remembered it. Speaking of that, your memory's pretty good for old guy, which I was having some funny texts with you. You remember that we tied. I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was Wyndham.
I think this was actually 9th, or was it 7th? I think it's 9th. I'm going to guess 9th.
7th.
Screenshot hopefully comes up.
I thought 7th and 8th.
But I'm ahead of you.
You're ahead of me.
Dude, I beat you like 3 times at a World Cup or something. I don't know. Maybe a few more, but yeah, okay. So is that the South African thing? You're like, well, I need to be the best South African.
Yeah, no. It's, I didn't really know, like, I always felt like, you know, I always had a lot of respect for all the other riders. I respect all the riders because, you know, they were great riders. And so I've never felt the need to like ignore people or be quiet to people. I think it's really polite to say hello to everyone.
Yeah.
But I think when you're on the track and you want to win and then someone like just pips you or that can be a bit annoying.
Well, you don't get your record without being competitive as well.
Sure,
like we even got competitive on the golf course yesterday and like I'm not playing much at the moment and you play quite well for not playing much ever, but we're still trying to be competitive to these guys that we were playing against in a good, fun-mannered way.
It was good until they brought out the vodka Red Bull. I mean, bloody hell, who drinks vodka Red Bull playing golf?
It's a tradition, apparently. Fun one, but a dangerous one. Do you think it's just like part of the game, mind games, being competitive? Like, I mean, you would ask me questions, like, and I understand that. I would probably do it to some people as well, like, oh, you're going to run that tire. Like, it's kind of a joke. But if I'm not aware of it, you're going to get in my head. And like, I'm a competitor to you. And it's a tough old sport,
some
right?
People also like, some people create the competitive side. Like, I think that I'd get so nervous before a race that I'd really like, you know, really be quiet and just focused and like nervous to race. And I think some people talk that like a playing mind games or trying to hold everything to myself when it's actually, I'm just bloody scared of getting down this track and I've got to try and win it. You know, I'm like my wife, we were flying last year. Anyway, I'm absolutely terrified of flying. And when it's turbulent, I feel like I'm about to die. And so I like tighten the seatbelt and hold on rest and like get real tense. And I just kept quiet and I like trying to listen to all the noises, see if the planes are right. You know, I'm like focused. And she's trying to talk to me and I'm like, eventually I'm like, say, keep quiet. Like, and she's like, well, I'm just trying to go. I was like, keep quiet. I'm trying to figure this out. Yeah.
Shame.
And then the flight smooths out. She's like, you're so rude. I was like, see, it was turbulent. I'm shitting myself. I need to just be focused.
Okay.
And she was like, well, you don't have to be rude. I was like, well, I was terrified.
You're not yourself. You're emotional.
And so I think in racing, that's what I did. And people took it as other ways, like, you know, and they can interpret the way they want. For me, it's like, I had to race this track on a track that I didn't feel comfortable on. I didn't feel confident. It's now started to rain. and I'm here to try and win. Like there's not a lot of fun right now. I need to be real focused and like.
It's interesting you explain that. I think I can understand that it could come across as mind games or like the other thing is like I
remember like
I don't think
joking about tires and stuff, and that's more just joking. Like
I think it's more like banter, like guys connect by bantering. We're giving you shit, and unfortunately, like at a race, so what do you give each other shit about? Like, oh, nice line, guy. But I think you don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like to not be Greg Minnaar.
Sure.
So like what you say holds so much weight, even if you're taking the piss. Like people might not know you're taking the piss, and they're like, "Well, Greg just asked what line I'm doing." Like, shit, must I rethink this line? Like, you actually probably weren't malicious about the comment. But because you're Greg Minnaar, potentially they interpret it incorrectly, and that's on them actually. The more I'm hearing you say, I'm like, you know what? You're right. It's how you interpret it.
But I never see myself as that. Like, I think we're all the same.
No, definitely. No, I think you've been really good to everyone, but you have to be competitive.
Oh, for sure, I'm competitive.
And it is a selfish endeavor, right? And I think maybe in 10 years' time, you were like, shit, it really is a selfish endeavor. Like,
oh, for sure it is. You have to be selfish to race.
Yeah.
You are selfish. It's just, you're the one who's got to take this bike down this hill. It's like, it can get tense at times, You've got pressure. There's pressure on you, and you're putting pressure on yourself to perform. It's a lot going on. And then there's a lot of stuff you can't control that you're worrying about. Like, you're going to go and prepare for this race. It's a world championship. You need to be perfect. And then you might get flat. And you think about that. It goes through your mind, like leading into it. So it's a crazy game.
Have you got a race that stands out where you're like, I was really worried, doubtful, didn't think I had the pace, and like you stepped it up and like, shit, I didn't think I was going to get that result here. Like, did anything...
Yeah, I remember Champere. I was always told that I wasn't the technical rider and da 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 da. And I was like, I can ride this stuff. It's and I remember I got second at the World Cup to G won it that year. And to me that was like, I can do it.
You put flats on that year?
No, I think flats. G might have. Yeah,
G might have. I think a few of us switched, but you didn't.
There's a few. I mean, I remember one Fort William at, I qualified and broke a wheel in qualifying, and I was so pissed off. I just remember crossing the line and the guy from the wheels was there. I just glared at him, and he just was like, "Whoop." We ran straight back to the pit, and then they're like, him and Marshy just sourced through all the wheels to make. Because I'm like, I lost Fort William probably 3 times because of a broken wheel. And, it was great. We're developing NV carbon wheels, but they were breaking. And once you broke the rim, you'd lose all the spoke tension. And so I remember coming third or second and whatever with wheels that were broken and flopping around. Like, it was pissing me off. And then I get to this race. It was 2016, I'm pretty sure. And I glared at this guy. I'm like, you guys need to shoot shit out. This is not cabinet. And I remember just like, I've got to race this in the final. Like, how do you know it's going to break or not? Like, what do you do? And you're thinking of it all the time. You're trying to like take different lines and sections because the wheels are breaking. But everything came together, and I had a storm overrun. It was that was probably one where I didn't expect to win it down.
Because you were so doubtful that you were going to get down, and like so much, so much that you were dealing with like out of your control.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like no surprise. Like you obviously can't keep doing it, but like it's pretty understandable that emotion will rise and anger will come with like you putting everything in. They're also putting everything in, but something's failing. Yeah. I've had the same. Like, I've walked up the track of Fort William with a broken wheel, and got the gondola down. And eventually it happened 2 more times. And I probably wasn't proud of myself back in the pits, after the 3rd time. It's like, we're here away from home. This is our living. Like, this season doesn't go good. I don't have a contract next year.
Yeah. You sometimes feel like people don't really understand the pressures. Like, you're in your contract year, your product that's failing, and they go, oh, that's, we'll sort it out at some point.
I'm like, no. I want to ride a wheel that gets down, take the stickers off, and then that gets vetoed. And you're like, shit, I understand sponsor obligations, but like, you might not re-sign me next year. And if I don't have results, no one's signing me.
Exactly.
You've had like pretty good runs. Like, have there been stressful seasons where you're worried about contracts and stuff? Or do you think once you'd sort of set the tone of Greg Minnaar,
I thought I didn't, and then suddenly I did. But anyway,
you need to bring that up.
But I think, like, I go back, and I just think back to like 2017, like World Cup overall in that final run, and I'm having a great run in Val di Sole, and the wheel breaks, and I lose the World Cup overall to Gwin, and it's like, come on, like that. I was pissed off there too, really pissed off.
Shit, I can imagine. And it's not the money and it's not the contracts. It's like it's the effort you put in
never repeat it
to win that overall.
Yeah, it's gone. Anyway,
what was it like racing him? Like when he came on, and then like did he win Maritzburg? Second? No, he won Maritzburg.
He might have won 20
when he started going on that run.
14.
I think he won Maritzburg.
I won 2014.
Yeah, when he was on Trek.
I'd broken my knee at the end of the 2013 season.
No, so Trek. I was on Trek 09, 10, 11. 2011. Did he not do something good on Trek as he got on Trek at Maritzburg?
Could have, yeah.
I think it was 11 that he started, like, you were like, oh shit, Gwin's like, can win races.
Yeah.
What was that like?
So he brought like this whole different pace to the race. It's like you could kind of rest up or kind of pace your run, like you'd hammer hard, sit up, go again, sit up, whatever. And he was just like this incredible energy from start to finish. And you're like, whoa, and it changed the way I had to look at racing and just pick up the pace earlier and maintain it and keep that pace the whole way down, top to bottom. And which is kind of what still is now.
So he was in. And did he bring that from like the fitness side? Like you were fit, so
I
just no strategy.
I think we hadn't had that tempo like from the start to the finish line. It was always in sections of track, and he just when you were kind of preparing for the next bit of track, he was still pinning it, and he was just putting time. So it was like a different style of racing.
Yeah, that was super interesting. And your longevity gets obviously thrown around. Like, can you talk to it? Like, what kept you going this long? What motivates you? Well, like, eventually, was it because you got old? You're like, I'll just keep trying to show it to the young guys. Like, what were the different motivators over time that kept you going? Like, it's a crazy sport.
Yeah. I felt like I'd never got on top of the sport. I felt like I've never dominated, and I felt like I've never really been at the top. I've always had moments of greatness, but it was never like consistent. I think if I dominated through a season and won everything, I'd be like, shit, move on to the next thing. But I never have, and I've always found it like really hard to back it up.
And what would that look like? Like Amaury winning 4 or Gwin winning like these?
I think one season
on a run. Would you call that dominating?
No, you gotta not have a little run. Like, I mean,
it's like no one could beat you.
Yeah, like some seasons I'd win 3 or 4 races in a year. But it's like when you win like a whole season, or back it up straight into the next season and keep winning or something.
Okay.
It's I always felt like I was consistent, but it was really hard to win.
That's so crazy. Like that you felt like you never got on top of the sport.
Yeah.
Just think about that statement, man.
Yeah.
Hey?
It's true though. I think that's what kept me going.
And surely when you got like older, like what drives you when you're waking up at 4 a.m. for those road rides and in the gym and reinventing yourself? Like, are you like, I'm going to win at 38. Hell yeah, I'm going to try to win at 40. Like what got you out of bed?
I always like the challenge of like finding the weakness and sorting it out and getting ready for the next season. Like I'd know going into the last couple of rounds where I was like whatever it is, my posture or my leg strength or whatever it was, I'd know in those last few rounds, and I'd be like thinking about it, adjusting, like what I need to adjust in my training, speak to the trainer and go, this is what I need to work on. and I find that quite interesting. And then like trying to squeeze more at the bike, because I felt like I said earlier, like I didn't feel like I had the skill, so I needed to work really hard on the bike for the bike to be really good, that I could then push it as hard as I needed to.
Didn't have the skill. I mean, you literally pioneered quite a few gaps. Do you remember the Vale one?
Yeah, the Vale one was cool.
I hope we can find that footage.
Yeah.
I mean, no one even thought about that.
It was cool. It was like a big rock kicker.
Like you were the Fresh Prince of Beer, not to blow smoke up your ass, but like that's what you were known for, is the gaps.
Yeah.
Jumping higher, bigger than, like you were early adopter.
This year. Wasn't there a gap this year? Oh, there must have been a gap.
You jumped off the Valnode Bridge. Someone else as well. I think that was unnecessary, but it looked cool. I don't know if it was faster, because people cut down and went inside.
I didn't get it right, like going into the race room. But what happened was, to me, it was like a little bit of a landing, but you'd had to nose it in. And so if you carried enough speed around that last right-hand corner, you could throw a few pedals in, squash it, but like nose it into the landing. And what happened with the guys riding off the bridge is that they were breaking through that little landing. So it got a bit tricky to get the front in. And so then you're landing kind of flat and then bouncing and missing the braking. And so, it was starting not to work.
Okay. So it was earlier in the week, looked better than probably that I saw later in the week. Yeah.
So
I think sometimes going for these gaps makes you commit harder into, say, the lip.
It's fun. I love trying to jump stuff.
No, I won't ever forget the Vale one. Like that, like no one saw that.
But there's also been a few fails. I mean, there was that one gap in Montserrat, and right towards the bottom, it's still there. They made it a bit easier now. They've cut the tree. I mean, it's so embarrassing. I had to tell Gracie that I actually pioneered that gap. I let her know a few times. And she didn't seem that impressed. I mean, she was like, "Oh, you mean this?" I was like, "Yeah, it used to be way better."
She was back in my day, it was way bigger.
But I remember overshooting the drop before, and then yanking on this late pull to try and get the gap in the final run. And I land, and I'm like totally out of control on the bars. And I look up, and there's this tree coming for me. I'm like, here we go. This is going to hurt. And I managed to like lay the bike and just head into the pad and get a good shoulder into it, and rather than take my shoulder out. And I was like, I'm just thankful that I didn't get hurt. But some of my pioneered gaps have failed me a few times.
I did have I sent like some questions to the gallery, and we'll get to them because we've got to like stoke the fans out. But someone wrote in, and I've got the pictures. I actually have to show you this. And you'll know who that someone is because you phoned him.
So we've been playing golf and we've been hanging out, and you kept this from, it's like the CIA or what?
Oh, hang on. Let's go in my WhatsApp. So the question was, why? What was the question? This is worth digging up. It's coming. I don't know where it is. Anyway, someone was asking John T. I think there's only one John T that I know.
Yeah.
So my brother, when did you start doing the Deeks whip? Because you used to know how to whip. It says, why are you doing kickouts now? And then he sent me a picture of you on a Honda, like whipped really deep back in the day. And then he sent me a kickout of you at Mount Sinai. And he's like, please ask Greg why he does kickouts now and not cool whips like
It's one of the things I've been thinking about. I went to Whistler, and I haven't been to Whistler in so long. And I was riding behind the Harrison brothers. And they were rippers, eh? And I had Gracie there. And I'm going like, these people look good on a bike. And I'm like, I need to improve stuff. Because I used to love whipping. And then I did see that Montserrat, and I was like, that's pretty bad. But then I did see a slow-mo mid-track on a better jump. I was like, yeah, that's not too bad.
Okay,
but
you'll have to send that.
It's actually a goal for 2025. I need to be able to go back to Whistler and whip a bike properly. But maybe not going to whip off. But,
no.
And I've got some pressure because I've got some, I think my team going into 25, we were going to have the most stylish women on bikes.
There's a reason a lot of pros didn't do the whip off at US Open. And you've brought it up. Might as well dive in. If you're going to have someone that whips pretty damn good. 2 ladies that are going to whip. 3. Oh, yes. You got a new secret signing as well. Why don't we do that? Let's dive in. Let's dive in to your new position.
Picture this. You're shredding the gnarliest trails, wind in your hair, adrenaline pumping, and then it hits you. You need to tame the beast below the belt. That's where Manscaped comes in. With their cutting-edge technology and precision engineering, you can groom with the same confidence you take on those downhill descents. It's the holiday season, folks. For some, it's the most wonderful time of the year. For others, it's just another round of dodging awkward questions about your love life and trying not to look like you just crawled out of a cave. Enter the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra by Manscaped to save your dignity this holiday season. Don't be that family member who shows up solo and scruffy to yet another holiday gathering. Get your overgrowth under control with a Weed Whacker 2.0 and let the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra help you seal the deal. Whether it's at the office party, a family dinner, or your next big adventure. Join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped to help keep their grooming game strong. Head over to manscaped.com and use the code MOVINGTHENEEDLE for 20% off and free shipping. Now, we've all been there, and if you haven't, consider yourself lucky. You're about to groom in places you'd rather not talk about. And oops, you've got a grooming mishap on your hands. Not with Manscaped. With their design built to reduce the risk of accidents, you'll groom with confidence. And it's waterproof, so you can use it in the shower too. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is your ultimate holiday helper. It's everything you need for below. The waist maintenance. It takes care of those rogue nose and ear hairs. Think of it as your seasonal survival kit, keeping you clean, confident, and ready to crush cuffing season and every festive gathering ahead. And here's the best part. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra doesn't just stop at the essentials. It also includes 2 holiday bonuses. The Boxers 2.0 Midnight Bravo and the Shed 2.0 Toiletry Bag. These premium extras will make sure you're always ready to jingle and mingle, whether at home or on the go. So if you want to look and feel your best out on the trail or outshine your weirdo uncle who's still rocking that goatee from 1985 and claim your spot at the top of the sibling power rankings, Manscaped is for you. As I said, get 20% off and free shipping with the code MOVINGTHENEEDLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code MOVINGTHENEEDLE at manscaped.com. Stay on top of your grooming game and be ready for anything the season throws your way.
My new position.
We might go back in time later in the podcast, but like Greg Minnaar retired from competitive racing, but you busier than ever. I mean, you had a phone call on the way here.
Yeah.
You were late for one this morning. Like, I think it's healthy to distract yourself and like get busy like you are.
Yeah.
And you seem like really energetic about this new role.
But
like
I've always been busy because I've always thought like when I got into my mid-20s, I had no education. And I decided, I needed to build something for when I stopped racing at 30. And it was probably at the time a sensible thing to do. In hindsight, probably a dumb thing to do because, I should have just focused on racing. And so it's been like an interesting time. But I've never, so I've always been pretty busy off the bike. And then I get to now where I'm like directing this team. And we want to build this team to be like a top team. And it's crazy busy. It's like dealing with rider contracts, dealing with sponsorship contracts, working on the development of the bike, working out ways we can support riders better on the track. It's really cool. It's like stuff, it's been able to like pass on all this experience, which is I've really enjoyed it. But it has kept me very busy. But I'm working with incredible people like, the CEO of Norco. Sean's just an amazing guy. Very directional guy. Just got a great vision. And Gwin who I've known for a long time. Charging the way and just learning from these people. It's been a hell of an experience. And I've really, really enjoyed setting things up. And I feel like we've managed to put together like a really cool team going into next season. Like I feel we're gonna be in the mix.
And your role, like you have a title, like so it's really hard to help us understand where you see you fitting in. You'll be at the races.
So the way I saw it was like, I'm not a great manager, so I need to hire a great manager. So I've got Ellen Milway, who's incredible, and and the reason for bringing Ellen in, even for this season, was motorsport racing. When Rachel was having all her success, Ellen was with her. And I was like, there's no better person but to bring Ellen into sport racing. And now we got 3 women on the team. And so that's super important. But Alan's just great. Like he's so organized and he's so detailed and thorough. And that's what we need. So, for me to want to manage a team is not where I ever wanted to see myself, because I don't think I'm the right person. I can add value into what Alan's doing and work with him on a few things, and then I'll work on the technical side as well. So I'm bouncing around a bit too, and then obviously I'm picking riders that I feel like we need on the team, and maybe the overall vision for the program. So it's really hard to play. So we just said like team director. It's kind of covers it.
It's kind of like team principal in F1. Like I don't want to freaking compare mountain bike to F1 ever again. But it makes sense. There's principal, there's manager, there's logistics.
For sure.
Mechanic, or you guys are going to have like a head mechanic?
So we do. We've got like head technical. So we've got Tom Duncan, head technical. We've got Alan, head of performance, but then team manager. And the reason I did that was if Alan's head of performance, then he's going to manage the team, which is best for the riders. And so he'll always have the riders' best interests. And that's important for management. So any decision we make on the team, Alan wants to squeeze the best performance. So when it's what date riders need to be at on the venue or whatever, it goes to.
He can't switch that off. But if we arrive at that time, yes, we save a little bit, but performance could be worse.
Yeah.
No, we've got to go performance.
Exactly. So that's why I wanted Alan as team manager. And then, Kathy says I've worked with Kathy for so long, but there is no better person for logistics. Like she's incredibly good. And she got so much experience. So, and so, I've never wanted to manage a team. I've never, but I like working on the technical side. I like working on the performance side, and I've been able to share my vision of what I feel is a great team and put that together. And that's been really cool.
And you said it's a challenge to like give over your knowledge, not because you don't want to your teammates. You just, sometimes you felt it wasn't your place, or the timing wasn't right, or they didn't ask. So who are you to step in? Even though you might, it's kind of like being a father figure. Like you can see the issues going to come, but they have to figure it out themselves sometimes, or they just are not open to hearing certain things.
Yeah, I think that's what's been so like, refreshing on the Norco was like, they wanted me to set this team up. They wanted me to pass on the knowledge to the younger generations and bring them up. And that's my job. And so it's easy for me to like help the riders out. It's my place in the team to do that. But when you're a rider and you told you're a rider, you're just a rider. So I can't go to a rider and go, hey Flip, I really don't think that's a great line to be riding. Who am I to tell Jackson or Luke or Loris, like these are incredible riders. That's not my place. But I was like, Luke always comes to me, he's like, why don't you share all your knowledge with people? And I'm like, I'm happy to share it. He goes, oh, can you share it with me? I'm like, if you want to know, for sure. And so we always have a little bit of a joke because he's like, even now you finish racing, you can share some knowledge. I mean, he asks stuff. It's, and I've always been open to ask, like, but I don't feel it's my place to let people, like, I'm not going to come and go, oh, this is what I do. No. But if you ask, I'd share it. It's worth sharing your experiences and what you know.
Yeah, I mean, I could hear you not giving away details. I could just hear you asking certain questions on the ride here and spotting like the blind spots. Like you've been through so much sponsor negotiations, certain deals, and you were saying, well, maybe there's value down the road if you don't lock yourself in now,
Yeah.
And that's super interesting. And you made certain decisions, like you got a Red Bull offer back in the day, right? Or potentially, or you could have, right?
The Red Bull guys in South Africa were trying to sort of deal, and it just they really material. I didn't see the value in what they were trying to propose, and so.
And maybe you can help riders with blind spot.
It's really hard. Like when a company chooses to be do all their sponsor stuff regionally, it doesn't always pan out. Like South Africa's a small market, but like a rider like myself and yourself, we're more global athletes than local athletes. We race a few races here, but the market's really small, so it's not the same. So I think maybe being South African and a company strategy kind of operates like that through the different regions doesn't always work out for athletes like myself or yourself.
Mm-hmm. But you were smart to see like, okay, I'm giving away all of this real estate. What is the value? What am I saying no to down the line. And if you look now, you've got some really interesting deals and outside industry. I just think it's really cool that you're going to be able to guide some younger athletes. So maybe we should jump into it. You're listening to this and watching. The news is out there. So let's have it.
So where do you want to start?
Your team, you're the director, you start. You tell us, and if you don't mind, give us some of your thinking. Like you retired and were thrust straight into we need to build a team. And like all the proposal that Warner Brothers had, that a lot of it / all of it went through. So you had all these different rule changes that you had to get caught up on and build a team around that. So
that was one of the things I wanted to do for the brand was also get a good spread in different regions. I feel it's important that a brand has like a rider represented in certain regions. So I was trying to go for Australia, New Zealand rider. We've adjusted our strategy down there, so I thought it would be important for us to have a rider down there to represent. Once I ride in the UK, I think it's an important market. We've got Canadians, but there was an opportunity for another Canadian great rider. So, I would have liked an American rider because we want to go into there. But and so that was my thinking of plotting the riders in different regions, and then also trying to fit that all together with making sure we like a top 10 team. And I don't want to sit on the fence and try and get a wild card. We want to be a team that's in the mix. And then not only for 25, 25's not too bad. You can buy a rider with high points and then you're in the mix. But going into 26, the team carries the points. So we're planning for 26 and making sure that we've got a team that's strong enough to make sure we're in the top 10 going into 26. So it was a really tough process, So that was my thinking. And those were my filters into the riders we got.
Okay, so you said UK.
Yes.
Meaning?
So UK, we got Danny Hart.
Okay.
Danny Hart. So, and impressive. Like Danny's had a great year. And he's a rider that's he's always up there. And I feel with what we can provide from a team, from a performance side as well as technically, I think we've given him everything that he's got to go back to Championship to have a great World Championship, as well as a great World Cup season.
Yeah, he did incredibly well on little to no support. And it just was like the way the contract cycles went for him.
Sure.
Wasn't even on the right size bike, no one's fault. Just like they tried one and then eventually got to another one. And yeah, I'm really stoked for that signing. I think he's got a good few more years in it.
I think so. Compared to where I was, he's young.
Good point. And don't worry, Danny, you're way younger than me. Yeah.
He's fine. So I think with the right support and team around him, I think we can elevate him. And that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see the team show that they can elevate a rider up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we've got Danny in the UK. We've still got Gracie and Lucas. And with Gracie and Lucas, we've got Bodie Kuhn, who's had an impressive year as a first-year elite, going through all these qualifying rounds. He basically was in the final for most races this year until he got injured in Enduro. So he was super impressive to me. And then we have Eris van Leuven from New Zealand.
That's exciting, new prospect.
Yeah.
Into the elite ranks.
Into the elites, but also had just a super impressive rider who's, and it's really hard, track conditions do change between juniors and elites. And a lot of people look at junior race and go, oh, he would have been an elite. But, conditions change, time of the day, whatever. But she's had some impressive results this year comparing to elites. But I think she'll go great for you. And she, if you've got her and Gracie whipping a bike, I need to up my game. And then joining them, we've got Lena Frenner from Austria, who's a young Austrian rider who I met maybe 3 years ago, and Fox were quick to jump onto her as a Fox athlete, and I met her at one of the Fox ride days, which was super cool. And what a great place to meet younger riders at like Fox doing these ride days. And I was riding behind this. She must have been 12, 13 at the time. Little girl going down that what's that jump line in Leergang? A big jump line like.
Oh, from the second lift?
Yeah.
Oh, I forget. Clip something hang? Maybe not.
Hangman or something.
Hangman, maybe. I don't know. But from the segment,
But the jumps are big.
Yeah, they're not small.
So I'm following this
quite fast too. Yeah,
really young girl who's not only jumping all these jumps, but that
she's whipping better than you.
Whipping better than me.
And me, probably.
And she's got such a great attitude. So like to round off our team, we've got 3 amazing girls. So we've got a very equal spread team. 3 amazing girls, 3 amazing men. We said Lucas is still on the team, Lucas Cruz.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
So he's recovered. He's finally back on the down bike. He had such a horrible...
How's he doing now?
Good. He's back on the down bike.
Amazing.
And it's been a long year for him, shame. And I'm looking forward to him. You know, he had such preseason testing. He was so fast and looking so good on the bike. So it's going to be great watching him race this year. And so we've got a great spread, 3 men, 3 women, and that's going to be exciting. I'm really pumped.
I've seen you and overheard some of these chats, and I can see like there's proper energy and excitement. You know, like, and I think it's a good thing for you, like post retirement. There's only so much golf and surfing you can do. Take it from me, not the surfing part. Like, you need something to dig your teeth into.
Yeah.
Like you might find now you've got that single-minded focus. I battle with that. I've got a few, irons in the fire. And that was like the one thing I miss is like when you race, it's like you know what you're doing when you get up and you can tick that and feel good about yourself. Now when you're like trying all these different business things, it is cool, but you just don't know, like this one directional thing, there's something quite fulfilling to that. So I'm actually stoked for you to see you at the races and to see you enjoy the races from the outside.
I mean,
incredible.
I've been really blessed. I must be honest. It was very lucky. The position I ended up with Norco, it was, just an amazing time to, I'm very thankful for it too. They saved me out but also just gave me this great exit of racing where I'm still involved in racing. I'm still going to be at the races. When you think about retirement, you're like, Fort William, I love going to the Ben Nevis restaurant, and one day I won't be going there. And then when you think of retirement, it's like it cuts off then. But now it's like I don't have to worry about all the other stuff. It's like I'm just going to be at the races, and I've got this amazing project where I'm going to be able to still be competitive in a different way, and I'm still going to race. I'm still going to do the odd races.
What do you think you're going to race?
And I am still testing and developing the bike. So, I need to get rid of this dad bod and make sure I'm in shape, which is also...
Well, it's not December 1st yet. No. Fine.
And so I was really lucky to have this nice transition into retirement because it can be stressful. It's not an easy thing.
I can attest to that. It's my biggest challenge and still is. Everyone looks from the outside and you'll still go through those mental challenges when that first race hits and someone wins the race and you'll be like, could I have got on the podium there? Could I get a top 10? Like, it's super interesting. But I tell you what, once you settle in, you'll be like, wow, it's fun being at a race. It's not so stressful and I can eat my breakfast in peace on the race morning.
I'm looking forward to it.
And the energy builds. You'll be like, okay, I can still feel the energy. Yeah. I know what my riders are going through. Like, I'm super excited. Like, I know from one of your riders, like getting a call from you means something. Like, it's really interesting. Like, with PD still in the sport, I think that's great. Like, I wish we saw Nico a bit, because that was my era where I was like, I'd love to talk to him. I'd love to pick his brain.
Yeah, great guy.
I wish he was doing stuff, the enduro and the teams. Like, he helped a lot of riders. And I think you're really fortunate, and the riders are going to be fortunate to, like, really pick your brain.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm really am. It's been super busy, but also so amazing at the same time. But it hasn't been, trying to sign riders it's not the easiest thing in the world.
No, talk to, so the proposals, if they're a core fan, they kind of know what's going on. Your goal is to get into the top 10, which you have a deadline, which is like coming up in December or January. By the time you listen to this, maybe it's past. So if you grab a Danny Hart, you inherit those points, and then you can go up the ranking that ended after the last race.
Yeah.
You can still build points by buying a rider.
Sure.
Okay. I understand that correctly, right?
I think so.
So that's new.
Yeah.
What do you make of the new changes and proposals? Like, I understand.
Everyone was like a little bit nervous, but when you look at it, it makes the teams need to be more professional. I think, having six riders on a team, it's a massive expense. And unfortunately, we've seen a few teams disappear because of it. It's quite harsh. We talk about retirement and things, and there's a few riders that haven't got rides, and it's they're probably not ready to give up World Cup racing, but there's no team for them. So how do they go back to racing it? That's going to be quite tricky. But it's Warner Brothers are leading the charge, and we've got to work with them to make it work. It's I think we've got a really solid base, and whether we lose some core followers or not, like I've seen over the years, I've seen the sport try different things, and it hasn't worked out, and then they altered and gone back. And you can always kind of adjust things and change things. So I don't know. I think the team stuff is different. It's interesting. It's made the teams be more professional, because if you're on that fence of a wild card, your appearance and how you present the team and your rider lineup is super important. So it makes you be a more professional team.
Yeah, I can see what's happening, and I think there's a lot of pros to it. I guess the byproduct or the knock-on effect was, say, losing some teams that had some riders that maybe were showing potential. Like you say, they might be forced out of the sport or into other series. I personally wish they'd take maybe another year or two to institute the changes. And I do agree that there's too many World Cup riders at the start line at the beginning of a week.
Yeah.
They do need to cut the field, right? And there's many ways to skin a cat, they say. So I'm not in the room. Yeah. So I don't have like a harsh judgment. I just wish we'd sort of like made sure the Continental Series is like robust and the path back to the World Cups is like official. And I guess I'm waiting to see that. And maybe I've just missed some of the info. So that's a bit tough, but it is making
like overall appearance for the World Cup looks great.
It's going to look
it
better.
Does look good.
And look, whether we like to admit it or not, like we can't go to all the venues if we have 1 million teams and it's a triple or double, so people miss that part. Like, oh, why are we not going to this venue? It's like, well, we can't even fit in that venue.
Yeah.
So you guys want to go to the venue? We've got to find a way to cut it. So look, you're not going to please everyone at the end of the day. Like, I'm not in the room. I don't know what the total goals are. I don't know what the red tape is. But you said an interesting thing, like, but by the end of 2025, the team keeps the points. Like, that's also another weird, interesting dynamic. Yeah. Like in the off season of 2025, our conversation is going to be super interesting.
I think so. I think everything's shifting around it. I just hope for the riders' sake, like, we've had like great growth over the last 10 years in downhill in riders' salaries. Yeah, there's not prize money, but riders earn really good in downhill. And I'm worried that gets a little bit lost. And also the racing's changed a bit. I mean, it's really hard to be consistent. Like if you go back 10 years, you had like a top 3 rider, top 10 rider. You could say you're a top 10 rider. Now, what is a top 10 rider now? It's like one week you 10th, the next week you 30th, and then you maybe back in the top 10. It's like, it's really fickle now of like where riders position themselves. So it's really hard to sell as a rider going, hey, I am a top 5 rider. Because now it's really hard to guarantee that you're in the top 5 every race. Yeah, you might finish 5th overall, but if you look at those results, they're quite erratic. And so I hope that doesn't get lost. I hope the riders continue to earn well and down, and that doesn't get more neutralized.
But I guess you as a team director can hire on like, you're aware that there's so much more competition. Like I can't expect my rider to always be in the top 5 actually. Even though he does 3 top 5s in a season, 5 years ago there would have been 6 top 5s.
Yeah.
It just isn't there. But you need the guy that's able to do the 3 top 5s.
Sure.
Because the guy that could do the 1 top 5, he is worth less.
And so the racing's so close now.
Yeah.
That's made it the results really erratic.
Yeah, are you okay with 30 in the final? Do you think they should have pushed a bit harder to try to do like 40 maybe?
I don't know. It's like, the racing's still good. You still got the same guys, I would imagine. I mean, it's hard not to watch a race when you got like some of the guys that are in the final.
I mean, you were
now you have like no protection.
You were case in point. I was like, when I'm tuning in to see Greg, like, yes, he qualifies 35th. I don't care. I want to see him in the final. Like, Gwin was impressive coming back and getting into the final, but like there was a world where it's like Gwin needs track time to get back up to pace, but they're not giving him the final. So then the field's just getting further ahead.
And getting into the final this season was really tricky because you had 10 guys protected who were all going for points.
Yeah.
And so now they elevate the track speed. Like the pace is really hot and they're like pushing hard. And then you've got like 10 to 30, so 20 riders who are top 30 riders who should be in the final. Now they're riding like conservatively because they need to make sure that they don't scrap, that they've got a solid run and they're in the final. And then you've got like 30 to 60 who are like, hey, I need to just hammer a run in here. And then you've got these like guys popping into the top 30 who are maybe not necessarily a top 30 rider, but were faster in the qualifying round because they pushing real hard, and like, Hail Mary going to this final.
No, well, that's
and so it makes it like you look like a Benoit Coulage, like his qualifying and Ghent final weren't great rides, but once he got in that final, then he was solid again and pushing the pace, winning races.
Super interesting. Do you think you and some of the riders like felt it knocks your confidence when those top 10 protected guys are hammering a run? So then you like nurse it into the final and you're like, dude, I'm 7 seconds back. Like I'm going to get smoked in the final. And you're like, okay, I was
But the problem is you can only jump so many seconds per run.
Exactly.
So it made it really tricky to race because you're going like, you're 7 seconds back, but you're in the final. Now you can go, now I can race. And I can close that gap. And I jump 6-7 seconds quicker. And the field goes another 4 seconds quicker. So you gaining on the field, but you don't have the time on track to really match pace. So it made it tricky this year racing.
Really so when I heard about 30, I was like, okay, so if they're going to go to 30, I think there's a fair way to get there because you've just said the byproduct of the semi-final and protection wasn't actually that fair for the field.
Yeah.
So now they got a fairer way. That's going to be super interesting. That is a positive. If you're forcing 30 in the final for broadcast reasons, then you've got to find a fairer way. And we're losing protection. Like, super interesting.
I think the formula going to 25's final is going to be a little more fair than it was in 24, for sure.
Yeah. So you've come through all these different eras. Crystal ball. Like, what does the sport look like in 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah. It's definitely going to be more professional. It's going to keep accelerating. You've seen a lot of electronics on bikes now. And the bikes are pushing even further into development. I think it's great. It's great for the industry. I'm excited. I think it's cool. You got to like once an hour, like over the years, you've just seen the crowd build bigger and bigger there. It's great to see. I'm sad we're not going to Fort Williams, but there's other events. Poland was a great venue. So it's good to see the World Cup expand to 10 races going into next season. I think I've missed that period. When I started racing World Cup, I think there was 8 that just come down from 10 to 8. And then we went down to 5. And so with more racing comes more opportunity. So you're going to see all the records will break. With more racing, more chance to win. It's going to be an exciting time. If we can maintain it, I hope we can.
Well, 10 races, needing to hire more riders.
More budget. Teams need more money.
Your budget went, are you allowed to say, like it went up quite a bit?
Yeah, budgets have gone up. They've
had to. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to guess that the budget has gone up. Like, okay, you've added this many riders, he's in this position. Okay, your budget's gone up.
2 extra races. 2 extra races, 2 extra riders, more staff.
We need outside industry sponsorship. Like the industry can only handle so much.
And we in all the years, I've never seen it. Like, we had Volvo.
Everyone talks about it. It's not that realistic.
No, I don't know. I don't know if our sport appeals to out of industry as much as we think it should. But it's well sport of the industry, and we can't lose that fact, and we can't ignore it. But I remember there was Volvo Canada. I don't know what Volvo put in, but they weren't putting in 10 million or 20 million into Canada. Maybe with some leased cars, I don't know.
Yeah, but if they put in $1 million, that certainly helps the budget, right?
Anything would help.
Anything would help.
But that was coming off the late 90s where mountain biking was supposed to be the next greatest sport, and maybe it didn't turn out to be for the masses. It did for us. It's been great, and but I haven't seen all that outside industry come into it.
Yeah, I wonder what it is. Like, I feel if we get the storytelling better, are we just so biased that I think and Drive to Survive for downhill could work? Are we just that biased? Because it seems like a crazy sport if you explain it correctly. Like, you hurtle down the hill at this breakneck speed over roots, rocks, jumps, and you only get one chance to do that.
Yeah.
It's pretty insane. Can you just tell that story and make the characters out of it?
I think
we need Sean Palmer back.
I think our sport is amazing, and it's this core sport that's got high energy, and it's like you go in the crowd of a World Cup, it's amazing. Like the amount of fun you have is incredible. But maybe we're just bike geeks and we just love it.
Well, we are bike geeks. I think we all are. Everyone listening, I think hit us in the comments and tell us if we're crazy or just biased. But
it's cool.
If it was going to go mainstream, it probably would have started to happen already.
I really think so, hey.
Does it really need to?
Everyone's going, it could be the next Drive to Survive. I mean, there's so many amazing sports out there with way bigger following.
Yeah, like we have a lot of people mountain biking, but we're in this niche downhill sport. Like the reason golf is on Netflix is like everyone plays golf. Like they can understand it. Not everyone can ride downhill. I mean, not everyone can even barely mountain bike.
We compared a lot of guys compare it to skiing and stuff. But, I went skiing for the first time maybe 5 years ago. And I was just crashing everywhere. But like you get up and you keep going and then crashing someone else and that took out a kid. And I mean, but you're falling over, but you go on a mountain bike, you go rent a mountain bike and go up to like a bike park or something, you crash, you get hurt.
Yeah.
The families generally picking up bikes and going to Whistler, you're going to get hurt. You have any kind of fall over, it's not the same as snow.
No,
it's kind of forgiving.
It's not fun. You're in the emergency room with your kid, like or your wife. She's like, "This is the worst holiday ever." You're like,
It takes different people,
No, it definitely does. Yeah, that makes sense. We are just bike geeks. You said something. You think
a bunch of nerds.
You think your record could get broken?
Oh, for sure. For sure. There's more racing. It's going to happen.
You think?
Yeah.
But the guys, they are not even halfway there.
Yeah, but, you're going to go to 10 races. It's through my career, we mainly had 7, 8.
I need to dig up the stats. I feel someone like Loic, the way he's going over titles, he wins less races because he protects the overall subconsciously, I think. Amaury, maybe when he's not in the title or when he is, he'll go for multiple races. But I feel like Loic can win more races, but he's able to win those titles now, which he's going after. So maybe he won't get to a record. Also, someone has to stay in the sport till they're 40. Not everyone's going to do that.
But I think that will come down at...
I feel that's a humble response. I think it may not get beaten because of the competition. Benoit can win a race now. Andy Cole can win a race now. Danny could come back and win a race. When I first started, there was like 4 people. I was like, well, one of those 4 people.
That's what I was saying earlier. It's quite inconsistent now to be a consistent rider.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Cole I don't know what he got at Wolves. Like the run didn't even look that bad.
Yeah, he was behind me, I think, at Wolves times. And that was
didn't look bad.
And that made me feel a bit better because I was like, okay, I had a big crash. I was really lucky not to get hurt. I managed to land on the backside of this rock. If I'd hit the rock, I don't think I would. It was going headfirst into this big block of rock. So I was super lucky. And once I got through that section in my race run, I was like, let's open it up. And I went into this berm and the tire kind of folded. My front tire popped me out all funny, and I lost all momentum over the big road gap and speed. But besides that, then I got back on track and I felt like I picked up my run again and got down the line. I was like, in 3 seconds or 3.5 seconds, 23rd place. And I'm like, what? 23rd? And then I look, I'm pretty sure Andy Cole was just behind me. And we're going, well, that's not so bad. He's a great rider.
It's fast in the sport, isn't it? You have hung up the boots.
Once again, like, you know, yeah, I've stalled in the first corner and my head was all over. It'd been your last race, you're like, but I felt good on track and I was having great practice and I felt like I could do something good there. And I come down, I'm like 19th place or something. Oh, I can't remember where I finished. It was like way down. And, you know, not too bad, but Dad looked Bruni behind me and I'm going, I think it's not too bad. You know, at least I could say I was ahead of Luke.
I saw the banter. What was that emotion like? What was it like trying to do a last race?
My mind was all over because I wanted to perform. I really felt good on the bike this year. And I really felt like I didn't have a great shot at World Cup racing. You know, at Leger, you know, the rain came and I was stoked the rain came for that run because the track was so fast. I was getting a bit nervous and I was like, the pace can be so hot. And then the rain just let it down and I was quite thankful for that. But generally, I felt a lot better than I think my results showed. World Champs, I felt like I could have done something good there. Montenegro, but you know, it's just been really busy and you know, I was trying to sign riders going into Montenegro and put a lot of energies and trying to sign riders going into World Champs. You know, with 6 week break of 6 weeks of working, trying to get everything going for this season. But my head was all over the place. I was battling to control my head. Like, it's hard, you know, you want to do well and then you're nervous, you're out of time, and then you try and loosen it up and you slip and, you know, it's pretty tricky.
And there's only 30 in the final and you want to be in the final at your last race. Like, that could be some of the most pressure you've felt.
Yeah. But I had a glass of wine once I was in that final. I knew Norco was putting all this activation together on the final.
Dude, that's so much pressure coming
together. I was like, oh, I hope I make the final. And I made the final and I was like, thank goodness. I promise you, I get down, I open the results, I'm watching the race. And it's like, am I going to make it in? You know? Because you can't ride too hard. You can't afford flat. You can't afford mechanical. And so, yeah, I got in and I was like, I need a glass of wine.
No, I don't know. I would guess that's almost as much pressure as trying to win home world champs in Manscaped.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so crazy. No, I think we'll start wrapping it up. I've got quite a few, but I'll get to just a few from the fans because you've obviously got a huge contingent out there. I'll quickly rip through them. We've probably spoken. Who will be joining Norco this season? Thanks, Brian. We've done that. Why not make it Teo?
I'm catching Teo on the scale, yeah.
Yeah, I think Teo needs to take racing a little bit more serious on the team.
Need to stop enjoying life.
Cool. So we've done that. Jeez, we've answered quite a few from him. Do you want to chat quick growing the Norco brand in South Africa? I'll give you the floor for that. Watch the space.
No, I don't know. Maybe we'll leave that one out.
How are you able to party so hard and still perform at such a high level? We kind of touched on why he does it. What perception? Smoke and mirrors. Looks can be deceiving. He can hide a hangover. Do you know they say 1 in 4 people don't feel hangovers? I heard this stat on the radio, which is obviously about as trustworthy as seeing a stat on Instagram these days. Are you one of those guys?
No.
Okay.
But I've always feel guilty and so I'm trying.
Here's the question. So I butchered it. When did the Deeks kick out become his trademark move? He used to actually do whips. I'm Jonty Netley. There's a good tune.
I haven't seen Jonty. Jonty's stylish. I haven't seen him riding.
Bro, he will take 2 months off and kick my ass on a bike. He doesn't even ride for 2 months. Nothing changes.
So maybe we need a jump. Maybe we need a South African whip off.
Yeah. Come to Darkfest.
Yeah.
You could come ride Darkfest.
Actually, going back to Teo, I mean, he's done pretty well with Darkfest.
No, yeah. It's like we give Teo a lot of trouble, but that's his niche he's decided to go into.
Is that what he's doing?
Well, he's just doing a bit of everything.
Yeah.
And his podcast.
Does the World Cup now allow that to dip into? Is he still going to dip into the World Cup race?
I don't know if the World Cup's going to allow his opinions on the World Cup. No, I don't know. That's a great question. That's the annoying question because you would want to see someone like that who's got a fan base dip into World Cups.
Yeah.
He'd have to get a South African jersey. which also could be a challenge to ride for the federation at a World Cup.
So,
cool. We ripped through these, and I got one final question, which is thought-provoking. Should I use cleats or flats when riding downhill?
personal preference. I prefer riding flat pedals. I love it, but it doesn't race well. I don't race well in flats.
Ratboy changed, won a title. Stevie Smith changed to clips, won a title. So the fastest overall is normally clips, but it is personal preference. Best and worst race ever and why? I think you covered some of those.
Yeah, I think so.
How do you get ready for a race run at the start gate?
Just warm up, good long warm up, visualize.
You gave me a tip, actually. You said you visualize getting through the first turn smoothly and confidently over and over, and then you feel the rest of the run's going to take care of itself. Yeah. There you go. Is the goat coming to live in the P&W now? Don't know. Is that Pacific Northwest?
Maybe.
Oh, that's where Port Andrews is in the P&W.
It's nice up there.
What was the best trail you've ever ridden? No, I already started the show with that. Druivors or Biltong?
Both.
Both. How did you enjoy riding in Åre, Sweden? That was your
World Champs. I went back and raced. I rode a festival there a couple of years ago. And flip, it's so nice up there. It's beautiful. And what was super impressive there is I forget the name. These girls have a bike club. And the scene was so strong and they were wild bunch, all their party shirts and stuff. And they gave me a shirt for my wife, but I forget what they call themselves. That was cool. It was a good bunch.
It is a Maria, so it might be. How is the pay in DH mountain bike compared to other sports and opinion on it?
The what?
The pay.
Oh, the pay. I think pretty good, really. It's, I think it also drops off quite quickly. You got a few guys and you're really good up top. But a lot of sports do that. I mean, if you can make yourself one of the ones up top, you'll do well. Yeah. But, I don't think it's
like that in life. You can be really good at anything. The top tier, you'll do really well. Greg, we do a ride with the people, all ages at Cascades MTB Park from Joshua _MTB. Will you do a ride day with people at Cascades?
We're doing a Devil's Peak ride on
Cascades.
December 5th, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, so that would have happened. Okay. How did you train over the off seasons in the bar? We've got through that. Yeah. When will you plan to have a little junior Minnaar? Can't not ask me that.
Everyone
asks. I know. You've been asked a lot.
Yeah. I find it quite interesting. Everyone seems to blame my wife. And I think it's quite funny. She doesn't think it's funny, but I'm sure at some point.
I feel like this is a loaded question. Has Greg ever developed confusing or inappropriate feelings towards a Dutch ghost? I feel like this guy, I don't know where that question comes from. Okay. Oh, there's your golf swing. Right. Greg, I have to say huge, huge congrats. And before we let you run, do you think there's a moment you'd love to relive? Not change, like an experience, a race winner. If I could put you back in that moment. That's one thing I've thought of.
Yeah.
You don't get to change it. You just get to relive it, re-experience it.
I mean, that's one thing I have sort of and I'm, maybe I've wanted to experience it again, winning a race. There's no better thing than your national anthem being played. That's an amazing feeling. Reliving that would be incredible, which I probably won't. And I've got to accept it that, unless I go into golf or something and get my national anthem played. But it's going to take quite a while for my golf.
I would choose another hobby.
But those moments are incredible.
Yeah, Palmer said that there's no better feeling, And he was like, what did do you remember that saying he had?
No.
He's like, all those yacht-owning billionaire mother fluffers and all those guys doing all those drugs, there is no better feeling. And I would know because I've done a lot of drugs. I butchered it, but he said he's chased a lot of different feelings.
Oh, what a boy.
And there's no better feeling than standing on top of that podium knowing you're the best in the world. That clearly is probably what kept you going, right?
Yeah, maybe.
You'd won all those races. I could win another one. I could win another one.
And my dad said it's champagne tastes sweet when you win a race, but man, it tastes sour, distinct when it's on your clothes and you've been sprayed by someone who won. And that's true. It's a horrible smell.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you don't have enough time to thank everyone, but if there are any shout-outs, go for it. It's probably too long of a list.
But yeah, there's plenty. I mean, from Norco to Grit and Devil's Peak and Fox, it's I know I'm missing a few.
Your parents.
But my parents would be so, without my parents, I wouldn't have made it. So to them, to the trainers over the time, to all the fans, to you, to everyone. It's been a great run.
Well, I mean, I look forward to the future, Greg, and congrats. Like I said, I can now give you a lot of shit and call you a old washed up guy. You don't have that on me anymore. Thank goodness. You've had it on me for so long. But jokes aside, I have to thank you. The reason I have a career in this sport and now we're talking a podcast is because you went and pioneered it. So I really appreciate it.
Thanks, bro.
And for making the time. And all you guys, give Greg some love in the comments. And if you're not subscribed, I'm bitterly disappointed. Till the next one. Peace.